Welcome to another episode of the Barron Report. This is the show that talks about all things innovation in the restaurant and hospitality business. And this show is actually going to be covering a series that we've done here on the network for quite some time called the Emerging Brand Series. If you've had a chance to maybe hear some of these podcasts, either you've been on Foodable Plus or maybe you've caught a couple of glimpses of these out in our editorial. This particular episode that we're doing today will be available in the editorial segment. With me today, I've got CEO and founder of a brand called OatMeals out of New York City, Samantha Stephens. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Let's kind of break in to a little bit about OatMeals for our audience to really understand what your concept is about.
Yeah, I've been open for 6.5 years, but I had this idea for 10 years before that. I moved to New York City to go to college, and my first year living here, I gained a lot of weight just because I love eating and I was running around eating everything. And I really needed to get back in shape and, started thinking about eating healthy. I started eating oatmeal and it really changed my life, helped me get back in shape. And I just thought, why don't I share this with other people and create an artisanal oatmeal bar where, I'm offering non-traditional toppings and really doing it very well. So I finally got the shop open in 2012 and it's just been growing ever since.
Interesting. So where do you see the brand going? I mean, obviously with such a unique menu base being oatmeal, there's been some other concepts. I remember a brand actually in New York City that was like a cereal. I think it was called Cereal, and they got a bunch of money. They were a single source type menu base. Where do you see your concept going, and why do you think it's a bit different?
Yeah, I think you might be referring to Cereality, which was in Philadelphia. And yeah, they had, all the really popular cereals on the market, and you could choose, different milks to go in your cereal. So it seemed like a fun idea. And I think they even created like a cereal bar afterwards. But yeah, I'm doing steel cut oatmeal, which, is a little bit harder for people to prepare at home. Right. And I'm offering really great toppings, everything from fresh fruits and nuts and seeds to non-traditional things like savory oatmeal. A lot of people don't think of oatmeal for lunch or dinner, but, we have bacon and poached eggs and pesto and truffle oil and Parmesan cheese. So we're doing a lot of non-traditional toppings.
Sure. That's a good point to kind of go to in terms of the menu development. Did you have a culinary background, or was this something that you just became very passionate about and started developing the concept from a menu standpoint?
Yeah, so I was experimenting, just out of college or in college, just playing around with, fun ingredients. And I love dining. So I was taking inspiration from all sorts of restaurants in New York City, working in the investment banking world after college, actually. But I realized that I really needed to go to culinary school. So I went to culinary school while I was working full time. It was really hard, but I knew that I sort of needed the credentials to make this happen. So I became a chef, and, that was like my final push. And I got the confidence to do this.
Yeah, absolutely. The process of working out the various menu items that you have on your list there for the brand itself in terms of savory, sweet, the obvious, what were some of the kind of the responses that you were getting from guests when they came into your store for the first time? Because that's obviously a different way to serve oatmeal. What kind of feedback were you getting?
Yeah, most people are used to sweet oatmeal or just healthy oatmeal. So I'd really have to kind of push them to try some savory options. But, once they try it, they're like, wow, I never really thought about oats like this. And it's really like risotto or rice. You can really think of it like any other grain out there on the market. And you can have it savory style. And, there's just so much you can do with it. But it's great because you're getting, all the fiber and nutrients that oats have, but you can do that at lunch and dinner as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Now you're somewhat connected to Quaker Oats. How did that relationship develop when you started working with Quaker Oats?
Yeah, I opened the store in 2012, and I was, really lucky to receive some great press right away. And Quaker kind of noticed me, and they approached me and they said, we like what you're doing and we'd like to sort of work with you somehow. So basically, they titled me their creative oatmeal officer.
Nice.
And I work with them. We do lots of fun events where I'll go serve, non-traditional oatmeal at different fun events. And I design recipes, which they use in social media and marketing. So it's been a really fun collaboration.
Yeah. Well, I think, obviously it's a natural connecting that brand with what you're doing there. When you look at trying to develop the brand itself, how do you see kind of the future of where this concept would be going? Are you looking at maybe packaging or going? I know we'll talk a little bit about the Shark Tank experience that probably would answer this question, but is there anything that's happening right now that is starting to diversify maybe a little bit more about what your menu offerings are or what you're doing in terms of products?
Yeah, I've really wanted to expand the store ever since opening. I have people from all over the world reaching out to me that are like, you need to do this in California and Chicago and England and, everywhere. So it's been really great. And I am trying to expand. I think OatMeals would do really well in all the major cities, in airports, in, train stations. There's a lot of options. So I am trying to expand. As you know, in New York City, it's very expensive to start restaurants, and it's a very tough world. So it's been a little challenging doing that myself. And actually, we talking about the Shark Tank deal, I had also thought about doing a packaged goods line. And I actually trademarked the word risotto, OATTO, a long time ago, thinking that one day maybe I would package some of my savory recipes, getting oatmeal out of the breakfast aisle and into the rice and pasta aisle at grocery stores.
Interesting. Okay.
So yeah, I've been thinking about this a long time. And, a lot of my friends have been encouraging me to go on Shark Tank, and I just didn't know if it was the right fit for me for a long time. But I did see that some of the sharks had been doing more deals with restaurants, and so I went in, looking to expand the business. But I was very lucky to receive a deal with Lori to do a packaged goods line. And, hopefully we can get my savory oatmeal into Starbucks and grocery stores. And so we're working on that, getting that started. And I'm really excited.
Interesting. So I know on the episode with Shark Tank, you had a lot of offers on the table, various different kinds of offers in terms of ways to go with the brand. Did you kind of know going in you were looking for assistance on doing a packaged product, or was that something that kind of just came up during the episode itself?
It actually, I went in wanting a deal with Barbara Corcoran because I know she's done a lot of deals with, the Cousin's Maine lobster guys, and, she's expand them like crazy. So I was going in wanting a deal for expansion. And when I was in there, I had thought about, Lori and her amazing retail connections, and but it was like a sort of a last minute decision, and I got a really good feeling from Lori, and I just felt like I clicked with her, and it just felt like the gut, I had this gut feeling that I needed to go that route.
Yeah. Interesting. A lot of times I think that's what happens to a lot of startup founders and new brand concepts is they kind of have that pivotal point in their brand development where maybe the brand goes left or maybe the brand goes right. Maybe this was the one for you. Is there any plan on doing multiple units though?
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely still a dream of mine. And, there's franchising that I've been thinking about. I actually set up franchising documents a while back, but ultimately it's kind of important to expand the corporate, with more corporate stores before franchising. So I really need to do a few more shops myself before starting to sell franchises. But, it's been really interesting because since this Shark Tank exposure, I'm just getting hundreds of emails from people all over the world that are like, we want a franchise, we want to buy a franchise. So it's exciting. There's definitely a need for it.
That's interesting. Kind of curious when the experience there, because I know with, Mr. Wonderful, he was giving you a bit of a hard time on the performance of the concept, but yet the idea was very solid. Do you find that as a startup founder, when you've got a concept like yours, that you're getting just as much reception now? Because if you look at the tech industry, many tech companies and software startups or development companies, in many cases, don't earn money for many years, and in some cases, never earn money.
Right.
So I'm just kind of curious, for people that are listening in on this podcast, maybe they're dreaming of starting a restaurant, or maybe they've got a brand that they're trying to grow. Do you find that the landscape of investors, obviously you saw it at the highest, scale with being exposed to the Shark Tank, but I'm kind of curious of your experience, if you're seeing more openness to brands who have really great ideas and maybe just haven't started the sales, cycle yet. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, you mean just in terms of getting investment if you haven't started already?
Well, no, seeing investors that are coming to concepts like yours that maybe aren't really yet turning, a huge profit, but yet still have a great concept that they're building. So, that's the point is the landscape of investors. Are you finding there on Shark Tank, it looked like you found a whole bunch of people that were very interested in your brand. Prior to that, were you also seeking investment, or were you finding the same kind of interest? I'm kind of curious.
Yeah, actually, I've been lucky to have all sorts of people reach out to me through the years. Again, I've had some really great pieces of press, which have, opened up this idea to so many different people. But yeah, obviously, since the Shark Tank thing, I think, I might be taken a little bit more seriously. But, as with any sort of business and especially in the restaurant world in New York City, it does take a while to turn a profit. And but I've been so lucky to have, so many people interested, and I have such a strong customer base and new people every day. But I've got such a good, strong, regular customer base as well, people that come in every single day.
Mm-hmm. What would you say your split in terms of your business is, locals versus people kind of finding you, whether it was through the exposure or just happenstance as a tourist? What do you feel like your business split is right now?
It's probably really almost like right down the middle, like 50-50,
Okay.
People that I'm right beside New York University campus. So I have tons of students coming in, and then local professionals in the area. We do tons of delivery and catering as well. So it's really a mix, but, tons of tourists from all over the world.
Interesting. So that's cool that you're doing delivery and catering. We have a show that talks a lot about the development of delivery and catering. Was that something that you started from the very get-go and beginning, or was it something that kind of, it developed as the brand started moving?
Yeah, I started delivery about a year in. All the different delivery apps started approaching me, and there's
Right.
no way to sort of deny or not go with it, because everybody's doing. Even personally myself, I use Seamless and Grubhub, personally
Sure.
all the time. So now it's great. Yeah, we're on like all the delivery apps: Uber Eats, DoorDash, Postmates, Seamless and Grubhub, Caviar. So there's a lot of marketing there, and way more ways to hit tons of people. So it's exciting to be with all the different delivery apps.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so I have a couple of questions that kind of goes into tips for young startup founders and food brands that are trying to develop. I'm kind of curious on some tips for them. When you first got started, what were some of the things that you had to kind of get, a baseline for? Obviously, the brand, the concept itself, but what were some of the starting elements that you had to put together in terms of the puzzle pieces to begin your quest in this whole venture?
Well, obviously, starting with a business plan, trying to find money, and I was really lucky. My grandmother gave me first chunk of change to start the business, but then I still had to take out business loans and lines of credit, and
Okay.
I eventually emptied out my 401k and anything that I had saved from my.
Wow, you were all in on this OatMeals. Yeah, I like that.
But I always say to anybody wanting to do this, you got to do your homework. For me, going to culinary school was a really big part of this. So if you want to start a food business, you really should become a chef. It just will make a lot easier going forward with that. but also, go speak to other restaurateurs, go ask questions, because,
right.
I had to learn a lot of things the hard way, which, has hurt, has been really a struggle along the way. So I think it is important to go ask all sorts of questions to everybody out there so you can really put your budget together correctly.
Yeah, I think that's a key element with many startups in a variety of fields, especially in the restaurant space, is that in many cases they're afraid to go ask mentors or people for tips. When I have found in this business, these people are very open and in many cases very accepting of young startups, trying to help them, kind of mainly because a lot of people remember when they were in that, kind of in that position. Last question here. So if you look at the most important things now that your brand is a bit more mature, what are the most important things that you guys are seeing currently in terms of growing your business? Now, we noticed how we kind of got connected with you was you showed up in our emerging brands group. So we track a ton of concepts, young concepts, usually, most of them started at the obviously the under 10, now we have a few that are in the multi-unit areas, but we started seeing some movement there in New York City around your business. But I'm curious, what are some of the things that you're doing? If you said, hey, these are the top 3 things I'm really focusing on now as my business is a bit more mature, but yet still growing.
I think as we mentioned before, the delivery is so huge. These days just people aren't going out as much anymore. They're staying home or staying in their offices and ordering delivery. So I really am focusing on, special menus for delivered goods. And then, at this point, this packaged goods line that I'm going to do with Lori Grenier, I'm super excited. So I'll really be working a lot on, developing interesting recipes for that. And, it'll be really cool to see what happens.
Interesting. Well, Samantha, it's been great having you on. We're doing more of these emerging brand series where we talk to CEOs of startups like yourself to kind of explore what are some of the big challenges that the industry faces, but also what are some of the big opportunities and things that other concepts and other brand operators can kind of take away. So thanks for stopping in on the show today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, it's been great having you. All right, so for all you listeners out there, whether you're catching us on Spotify or maybe over on iTunes, make sure and send us a note if you have an idea for a show. You can just do that to producer@foodabletv.com. You can also hit me up on Twitter. If you DM me or if I'm not following you, just tag me and I'll tell me you have a question. I'll follow you, and then we can converse via DM. I don't necessarily get a chance to answer all the DMs on the Twitter account, but I do my best to try to keep up with those. If you have an emerging brand in your city or in your area that maybe we don't know about, we'd love to hear from you, because that's how we discover concepts like OatMeals and get a chance to get their CEOs right here on the Barron Report. So make sure and tune in weekly. You can also catch this show live. We're trying to do more live shows in 2019. So stay tuned right here. We'll catch you next time here on the Barron Report.